As long as there have been humans, there have been scary stories. Some of them are cautionary tales, teaching people to fix the error of their ways before calamity rains down upon them. Some of them are just scary for the sake of being scary. I prefer the latter, but to each their own. Some of these stories have advanced and evolved over time, but some of the scariest stories and legends come from Native American mythology. That being said, let's look at 9 creepy Native American legends. The Windigo. The Windigo is one of the most popular legends to come out of Native American folklore and has origins in multiple Algonquin-speaking groups. It is described as a human that has been possessed by a malevolent spirit. When possessed, the human becomes something closer to a monster, committing acts of murder, greed, and cannibalism. Basil Johnston, an Ojibwe teacher from Ontario, described the Windigo as such. The Windigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. Its desiccated skin is pulled tightly over its bones. With its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Windigo looked like a gaunt skeleton, recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering from suppuration of the flesh. The Windigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. In some lore, the Windigo is described as a giant that grew larger with every human that it ate. This caused it to never be satisfied and would always be searching for new victims. Uktina, the Horned Serpent. Horned serpents appear in multiple Native American cultures, but mainly in the southeastern woodlands and the Great Lakes region. Uktina took many different forms according to the tribe. For the Muskogee people, the horned serpent was an underwater creature with crystalline scales and a crystal on its forehead. With these crystals, they could see the future. For the Yuki people, the serpent was related to storms, disease, and rainbows. For the Sioux tribe, the horned serpent was a completely different creature. It was a water monster that took on many forms. They were nearly run to extinction by the Thunderbirds, beings of great strength and power. It is said that all that were left were small pieces of lizards and snakes. The Little Cannibals. Tehihan, or the Little Cannibals, were creatures most famous in the Arapaho, Gros Ventre, and Cheyenne tribes. They were child-sized, but were incredibly strong and fast. It is said that they were not too bright, though. They could use basic tools and weapons, and were known to use basic magic, much like goblins or trolls in other legends. One story states that they had captured a warrior while out on their hunt. The warrior tried to stall his fate by trying to talk to his captor. He noticed that there were a group of small hearts hanging on the wall of the Little Cannibals' cave. When he asked what they were for, the cannibal dwarf explained that they were the hearts of his relatives, and were there to be kept safe while they were out on their hunts. The warrior quickly got up and stabbed each heart on the wall, killing them from afar. Ultimately, he stabbed the last heart, killing his captor. The Owl Women. In Native American culture, the owl is a symbol of death. In the Yakama tribe, the Owl Women were 5 very tall women who lived in a cave somewhere in California. They would hunt for all sorts of prey, but liked the taste of human flesh most of all. It is said that they could emulate human language so that they could lure people into their cave and eat them. One particular story says that a group from the tribe were out one night digging roots. The Owl Women arrived and took one of the small boys that was with the group. Instead of killing him and eating him, they decided they wanted to raise him. The boy managed to escape 3 days later. It is said that they were some of the most dangerous creatures in all of Native American lore. It is also said that they are responsible for the creation of all owls. The Ghost Witch. The story of the Ghost Witch comes from the Wabanaki tribe. Legend states that they come from magicians that were so evil that they refused to stay dead after they had passed. They come to life at night to kill or eat whatever or whoever they come into contact with. Sometimes they would even throw curses upon their victims. There is a story about how an old witch was buried in a tree among the branches, in a grove that was used as a burial plot. After a while, a man and his wife came looking for shelter from the harsh winter and found the burial grove. After they had made a fire, the wife looked up and saw dark shadows hanging above them. The wife was uneasy by the shadows and wanted to leave. The husband would not listen to her concerns and went to sleep. When their fire went out, the wife heard gnawing sounds in the dark. She tried to wake her husband, but could not. She stayed frozen in fear and waited for daybreak. When the morning finally came, she found her husband dead with the left side of his body chewed on and his heart missing. She ran out of the grove and stumbled across a village near it. When the villagers returned with the woman, they found her husband's body was laying underneath the burial tree of the witch. Upon further inspection, they noticed that the mouth and face of the witch were covered in fresh blood. Skinwalkers. In the Navajo language, the term skinwalker translates to, "it goes on all fours." A skinwalker was a witch who could transform or even possess animals. These witches were usually outcasts who practiced dark magic that was forbidden to the Navajo. While they were transformed, their eyes would glow red and they would grow to much larger sizes. As animals, they were bloodthirsty, and as humans, they were just as bad. These witches were known to create and perform terrible magic to make those around them sick or even kill them. If someone was suspected to be a skinwalker, it was legal to kill them on sight. If you hurt a witch while they were in their animal form, they would carry the wound back to their human states. When European culture was introduced to Native American storytelling, it is said that not even bullets could hurt a skinwalker. The Flying Heads. The Flying Heads, or Big Head, or Great Head, is a cannibal spirit from Wyandot, an Iroquois legend. Their appearance was usually dependent on the person telling the story, but it was usually described as a human head with razor-sharp teeth and sinister eyes. Some interpretations even had bat wings coming from each cheek. They are said to be taller than any man and have a hide that no weapon can pierce. Legend states that the Flying Heads came from when a group of young men from a tribe decided to unjustly murder some of their elders. They decapitated them, burned the bodies, and sunk the heads in the bottom of a lake. After a while, the men started to see slime and bubbles on the top of the lake. Soon after, a great head with wings emerged from the lake and terrorized their village. One day, the Flying Heads came upon a woman roasting acorns in her home. When she pulled the acorns from the fire and ate one, the Flying Heads became horrified because they thought that she was eating live coals. The Flying Heads were never seen after that. Doubleface. The Plains Indian tribes told stories about a creature with the face of a human and a second ogre-like face on the back of their head. If you make eye contact with the second head, you would either die instantly or become paralyzed with fear until the creature came back to murder you. A doubleface can be either a man or a woman, and some legends suggest that there were even a whole race of them. The doubleface would murder, mutilate, eat, kidnap, or even just frighten misbehaving children. In some legends, Doubleface is responsible for childhood fits and night terrors. Dry Fingers. Oniata, or Dry Fingers, is a boogeyman of Iroquois legend. It is a disembodied, mummified hand that would fly by and scare people. It is said that if you speak ill of the dead or stick your nose where it doesn't belong, Dry Fingers would come and make you deathly ill, or even strike you blind. Some stories claim that it would only harass people who were bad, but in other tales, Dry Fingers would attack you regardless of how bad you were. If you happened to come across one, it would terrorize you just for the sake of it. Native American culture is rich with stories and legends that teach kindness, goodness, and compassion for nature. But for each story with a good ending, there are just as many, if not more, tales with tragic or horrifying ends. Thanks for watching. Stay weird.